Hi all, this is Kasak Mad Keparu for Project Illuminated, and today I want to talk to you about the revolutionary movement and using filmmaking as a proxy to bring about that revolution. I've noticed a trend within filmmakers, specifically black filmmakers, if you want to use that colloquial term, that's happening. It's kind of very disturbing, and typically I usually don't comment on other filmmakers' projects because I'm a filmmaker, and I want to leave that line of demarcation and have that respect, because of course everything is subjective. I may not like the topic or how a film was brought to the screen in terms of its narrative execution, but the audience may like it, so opinions differ. But what I'm seeing is quite disturbing is how, number one, these films are being produced for the sake of economic advancement and not so much the true cause of which was put forth by the producers as the reason for their projects coming to fruition. So what do I mean by that? I'm seeing a lot of shortcuts being taken purely for the sake of economic gain. These filmmakers are producing their films and they're saying they're doing so because they want to help bring about a revolution, because there's an inequality of what's happening as far as race is concerned. So apparently their passions brought them to the point of wanting to produce a film regarding the Black revolutionary struggle. But, before I get into that, let me take you back to segregation and talk a little bit about that, because it's a perfect segue into this main topic I want to discuss with you, which is during segregation, after segregation, let's say it that way. Blacks weren't afforded the opportunity of getting the same type of jobs or even getting into the job market as whites were. So blacks had to come up with their own way or avenues of opportunity of earning income for themselves and their families. And the way they did this was very ingenious, very creative. They took on the hustle mentality, where they would run a numbers game, where they would sell jewelry on the street, where they would sell merchandise, anything that would rake in income. We would thought about it, and we executed it. I mean, from selling soap, incense, to basically doing some trading and bartering of goods and services. So that was, what we coined as the hustle mentality, which was just a means, a method of gaining some income due to the fact that we faced a very racist job market that did not open its doors as promised by the government to have equal rights, equal opportunities. So we had to create avenues for ourselves. Now, cut to today, in present time, you see that the job market has opened its doors, thanks to, whether you agree with it or not, affirmative action, to where blacks and other minorities, women, are now given the opportunities to enter the job market and to receive not only equal positions but equal pay. So this hustle mentality, which is a remnant from that past period of when we had to deal with inequality in the job market, or not being offered or even given opportunity to interview for certain jobs, we now see that many brothers and sisters out there are still adopting this hustle mentality. And it's out of laziness, because a lot of them can work. But I don't want to generalize like that and say that all of them are lazy. But I remember meeting a brother who was selling jewelry, and I was like, you have a family. Why are you not getting a regular job where you have your 401k, your benefits, to support you and your family if God forbid something happens to your children and they need medical attention? And of course, his thing was, I can make more fast money selling jewelry on the street than I could in my corporate job, and that's debatable. I don't agree with that. So how does this relate to filmmaking? So what I'm seeing now is that a lot of filmmakers, black filmmakers, if you want to say it that way, are producing films, documentary films, where the style is that they'll sit down and interview several people, splice that together, add a soundtrack on that, and get that out to the market and say, hey, I'm a filmmaker now, and here's my documentary film on what's wrong in the black community. And the basis of this, or the catalyst for this, was that films prior to this were making money. So one thing you have to understand that's going on in the black community is that we operate solely based on a precedent, meaning that if it has been done before, we're more likely to do it, but we are not innovators. We're not risk takers. In other words, we want to know who has done it before and will follow in that proven method. So, in fact, and that's the reason for that, because there's a lot of social pressure, but those who break out of the norm and go their own way in the black community, they can even be called, if they're speaking properly, they can be called, oh, you're trying to be white, things of that nature. But that's an entirely different subject matter. So again, what I'm seeing now is the shortcuts that are being taken to produce these films, which seem at the heart of it is purely for economic gain. It's not for because they're so really about the cause, but because they've seen Brother X do it, made a ton of money, and now he's producing a T-shirt line based on his movie and producing the part 2 to it as well. And nothing wrong with that, if you're able to self-distribute your film and produce it on your own, that's great. But I came from the old school of filmmaking where you put together an LLC, you solicit investors who would, drop $10,000, $20,000 to finance your project, and your budget was either around $500,000 to $1 million. So again, we see now there's this shortcut that's being taken, and people are running around now calling themselves filmmakers because they can produce these really cookie cutter fast films that can turn a profit right away for them. And again, what I'm seeing is not for the love of the cause, but more so for individual economic gain, and a bit of ego too there as well. And what tends to happen in these cases, if you look at, for example, the black romance novels, when you had 1 or 2 come out and then they made a bunch of money, and then now a lot of women, black women, are writing these what they call is these ghetto novels and making some money off of it. But you've saturated the market, and that's what I see that we tend to do is we find something that's been doing pretty well, and then start to do it and really just saturate the market to where now no one profits from it, and it's quite sad. And there's also the tendency of being okay with mediocrity. We produce work that is not on par with what I see that's in mainstream indie film. And we're okay with that, though. And I'm not okay with that. I think that you should be doing a original score, that you should be doing your color corrections, your sound. Everything should be done as the highest quality as what your budget will allow. But again, what I'm seeing again is more focus on how can I turn a profit than really trying to produce the best quality product as possible. Now, going into this a bit deeper, which again is really concerning, is that if we are for the revolutionary movement, or if you are so-called black nationalist, which I don't consider myself a black nationalist, and you're producing your films because you want to awaken people or make them conscious, I really take issue with the fact that what you'll notice, and I'm trying to be delicate as possible, is that when it comes to black people and really starting a revolution, we are so afraid because we know a real revolution comes with bloodshed. A real revolution requires work. I'm listening to these brothers and sisters who have their own internet broadcast shows, or whatever you want to call it, internet radio shows. And some of them I follow, some of them I don't. But what I've noticed is a trend that their shows run about 3 hours long. And I'm like, my God, what can you talk about in one program for 3 hours? I mean, it's incredible. I'm mystified at that. So what is my point? My point is that when it comes to really executing the revolution, we're more about talk and show than actually about the application of our techniques and strategies. We talk a good game, but produce very, very little.